I think
Woo!
it's we are live. I figured it out, even though this is always so super stressful. Okay. All of these live streams start the same because I'm always super stressed about it because they change the way that we do it. But either way, hello, welcome everybody. Good morning. It's Monday. This is Gabrielle, your admin, if you don't know me, and I am extremely excited to have my boy RBJ, Ron Ben Joseph, here with us today. And as always, if you're watching the replay, just put hashtag replay. And if you're watching live, you can comment and I will be watching it on my phone actually. If you have any questions and we will answer them. But let's start with an intro. Ron, tell us who you are and what you do.
I'm your boy. I love it. This is all I want. I just want to be. I'm a boy. This is what I do. Um, so I have a company called Artful Speaking, and I, as it says on my LinkedIn profile, I'm a Broadway-trained performance coach. So I work with primarily female entrepreneurs and executives, and a lot of female therapists, coaches, consultants. On I would say like they've been told the women I work with have been told throughout their career they're too much or not enough, and they want to get on bigger stages. So I work with them on creating the content as well as the delivery and the performance to be like Broadway level, Broadway ready performance. So that could look like keynotes, TEDx talks, workshops, or even just selling more, having clarity on I have a new package coming up or a new event or workshop or conference or something, and how do you sell it? How do you communicate the value? So it runs the gamut from sales conversations to presentations and a lot of video as well. People wanting to do more social media videos. I help them with that. I direct their videos. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much the story. Yeah, that's what I do.
I love that because I didn't know about the selling part when I first started working with you, but now we're talking about that. So which is super helpful. And I also thought this would be good because a couple weeks ago, my friend Dominique Pritchett came and she talked more about like the business side of speaking and adding that into your practice as a therapist. And I thought it would be nice to have you come in and talk about the other pieces of this because this is really important. And how I found Ron, by the way, if anybody is wondering, I pitched to speak at something called Disrupt HR. And they have chapters all over, but the one in Denver is very big. And I knew this, and it's also really competitive. And I got through the first stage, but they didn't end up picking me. And when I talked to them, she let me know like we have a very specific way that we do things. You have 5 minutes, you can't look at the slides, and we also have a speaking coach that helps you work through all of this. So, as I have been speaking more in my business, and I just spoke in Italy. I was like, I just want to be better. I get super nervous. I've talked about this before in this group too, but I have failed public speaking. I cry before I go on stage. I get my hands shake. I am super nervous. And I was like, I want to work through this, and I also just want to be a better speaker. So when I was thinking about that, I reached back out to the Disrupt HR person and I was like, you said you had a coach. Who is the coach? And then I met Ron and we got a call, and he talked to me for over an hour the first time that we met. And yeah, and now we're working together, or we were working together. Now our work has shifted a little bit, but we worked together for about 8 sessions on like my keynote, which a lot of you also know is like Polyvagal and Burnout, and he really helped me with that. So I see people are watching live. If you have questions, let us know and we will answer them. But I think that's a good place to start, Ron, is a lot of people are afraid of public speaking. And I also think a lot of people are in a similar situation where I have been, where they're feeling this call, they want to do it more. As therapists and group practice owners and coaches, there is a huge space for us to integrate this into our work, but we're afraid, we don't know how to move forward, we're not like formally trained in speaking. So tell us, like, what do you kind of usually start with? How do you help people work through those things?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so what like I want to address the fear side first. I always, when I give workshops or when I'm teaching classes, I'm always like, I wish that everything I'm going to talk about today, I wish I had just read it in a book, like some of my colleagues when I used to teach at colleges. But fear is something that is, at this point, is just someone. It's just, it's like in Dexter, he calls it like the passenger, right? Or like the
That's what I call it too.
right, right. It's just someone it's something that's going to be there, and so I've had all of it. I've had hecklers as a comedian. I've had hecklers as a presenter and public speaker. I've had panic attacks as an actor. I've had panic attacks on stage. I've had all of it. And so it's what I talk about. What I work with people is certainly not like, here's 5 ways to eliminate fear. No, no. Here's 5 ways to like keep going and make the audience not know that you're freaking out on the inside, that you're sweating and you can't wait for this fucking thing to be over, you know? So with fear, like I don't want to skirt away from it or be like, oh, it's not real. No, no, fear's legit. This thing is not natural. Like to get up and speak, I think public speaking, it took me years to really get here, but like I think public speaking is the absolute coolest performance art form ever
Mhm.
from my perspective. Um, and I've worked with a lot of performers, singers, dancers, actors, all of it. To me, especially therapists, like I will say to you, I'm like, my goodness, like if I get a call from a therapist who wants to speak more, to me, there's no greater art form, especially in 2025, because I'm like, you're talking about the very thing I want right now, and that's to feel better, right? Polyvagal, like all the stuff that you and I worked on, that's a speech that is to me as exciting as watching TikTok or Instagram because it's all about me. It's all about what can I do right now. So the way I work with people is, especially if you're scared and fearful, we don't, like I said, we don't shy from it. We don't screw. We go like, hey, tell me everything. Like tell me where the trauma comes from. Tell me where the fear is. Tell me what you're afraid of other people seeing about you. And we get super clear, and in our conversations, I'll listen, I'll ask you so many questions, and then I'll also get to the root of what it is that you want to say and then how you want to say it. So when we create outlines, the first thing we do is we create an outline to get everything that you're talking about like into a cohesive, linear um, flow, which is like with a clear beginning, middle, and end. We set up a conflict, we set up a thing that your audience member wants, and then we get super clear on how you get them there, how you help them get the thing, right? That's the first stage. We get super clear. Then, while we're doing that, we're also figuring out what it is that you need to take on stage with you. So when we worked on your awesome keynote, it was so good. Like you had one visual, like you had one picture of of the nervous system, and it was I thought very effective. Like, and for you, it was helpful. You didn't need a PowerPoint with 37 slides. So we figure out what you need, what's authentic to you. And I always joke, like, it might be a matter of, like, we might create this gorgeous outline, but then by the time that you are ready to get on stage, you might have like a post-it with fidget, um, like toy and bag. That might be the thing, like those three notes that you take on stage with you, and that will make sense for you, and you'll do a beautiful speech for 45 minutes with just those three words as triggers or whatever, right? So figuring out what it is that you need is the most important thing. Then we talk about performance. Like, how do you deliver this? How do you deliver it in the same way with the same authenticity and connection as when you're doing your one-on-one work? Because I think a lot of therapists have that issue as well, right? They're like, I'm so good one-on-one because I'm asking questions and I'm
Mhm.
bringing the stuff out of someone. But now you're asking me to get on stage and just initiate a conversation. That's a completely different skill. So when it comes to delivery, we go, okay, well, maybe there's a great place to ask a question here. Maybe you can interact with the audience. Maybe you can spotlight coach. Maybe right. So we figure out like how you deliver it in a way that is so truthful and that the audience can like just really experience and embody what it means to work with you and why you're a solution provider. That's kind of in it, not a nutshell by any stretch, but that's the exploration of what I do.
I mean, that seems good how it went with me. And that's true because we did start with like this huge outline, and at the end, I didn't even need it. I just needed a couple of key things. and that was it, which seems crazy because in the beginning when we first started, I was like, there's no way that I could ever get to that point where I'll just need a sticky note that says like, I don't know, coffee cup. Like I never thought that, but it was pretty cool, I think, from my perspective to go through the process because something else that we worked on is I also had this idea in my head like I have to get up there and I have to say things a certain way and I have to do it a certain way and the way that I'm doing it is not good enough. And
Mm.
that was one of the key things that came out of this to me was like I practice authenticity in a lot of places, but for some reason it wasn't translating over to here. And so knowing that like I don't need to do it a certain way. I don't like I get to do it my way and explain it my way and that's me being my true self, which of course always is going to resonate the most with people if we're not pretending to be something that we're not.
100%. Like I had a show once May 14th of 2012. I remember the show. I remember the date. Where I just bombed like the whole time. I just got off on the wrong foot and just stayed there. And then it was the one time I like argued with an audience. Like fully it was like argued with them. And it was a comedy show, it was a variety show. And I learned so much from that, but I gave up performing for adults for 6 months. This is true. And I took my act and I made it for kids and I would perform at like daycares in Chicago. This is a true story.
I
It was
love
like
this.
it was really cute. It was a kids show and that was even harder than adults. But then I was invited 6 months later, like literally it was like 6 months later, I was invited to perform at a friend's fundraiser. He had a theater company who wanted me to do one of my bits at a fundraiser. And I did the exact and I was terrified. I was so nervous. And I did the exact same bit that I did 6 months earlier, one of the bits. But I did like just and it killed. I mean, I remember this woman in the front row crying, laughing. Like literally, she was on the table just laughing. And I was like, I saw that like the content, it was just so funny to me. I'm like the exact same content. When I delivered it 6 months earlier, I put all this pressure on myself and I was like trying to be funny and I was trying to be something I wasn't. I had this vision of what it should be. And then here I was, I'd gotten rid of that because I didn't expect anything at that point. I was just like, God, I hope I don't fail again. I hope I don't embarrass myself. And I just went and it was very authentic and it was very honest because I had no pretense. I was like, let's just get through it. And I had no expectations. And it taught me how to relax ultimately, even though I was terrified. I remember being so nervous backstage. But I was like, oh, if I just worry about or focus, not worry about, if I just focus on connection with the audience
Mhm,
and asking them what they need and kind of just making it all about them and taking that pressure, the onus off of me, I
mhm.
was like, oh, well then that's fun for everyone. And I'm just like a facilitator, I'm just kind of a conduit for this silliness and for this opportunity to not take ourselves seriously. And it was huge. I mean I crushed it. And then ever since then, I just I had one other time after that where I bombed significantly, but that was in a different context. It was a stand-up open mic and I was in a bad place. Everybody was in a bad place. It was the beginning of 2017. Everybody was emotional one way or another. And I said something really rude to an audience member, right? Like so that happened. But outside of that situation, I saw the value in just relaxing and just and as best you can and just being authentic to your point. So, like without expectations, just try to connect, just ask the audience for what they need, and then support them. Make it about them. So, yeah.
What about this is making me think of something that you say to me a lot, and I want you to explain it to the people. What
That you're
about
the best ever, that you're so great. I mean, hopefully the audience knows it, but I'll stand by it. I'll talk about that for an hour if you want.
um actually I'm gonna come back to that because I saw we had a question. I don't want
Oh.
her to miss what she's asking. From Carla, which I also relate to this. So Carla said she really struggles with speaking too quickly.
Mm.
I walk fast, talk fast. I also easily take long routes to get to the point. I really admire people who can speak calmly and still engage their audience. How can I learn to do this? I have ADHD and can't take medication for it. Well, you're talking to two ADHDers right here. So what do you think about that?
Yes, this is phenomenal. Great question. Great question. So one thing, I don't know if this is helpful, but I started this summer, I took, um, I started taking Dopa Boost, like these dopamine supplements, and game changer. I just want to put that out there because I was scared to take the other, like Ritalin and all that stuff. So I started taking Dopa Boost. Heavenly. I just want to put that out there. That's just, you can find it on Amazon. Dopa Boost, delicious. But if I'm not a doctor, obviously, but okay. Um, Speaking fast, I'm a fast talker as well. Um, and I would just say the thing to remember, or I would start this way: when you're creating your content, write down in one sentence what is the thing that your audience mo wants most to hear, or needs to hear, or wants to get what they want, right? Like what do they need to get what they want? So that could look like you writing down before you do a speech, okay, the one big takeaway I want my audience to walk away with is, or the one thing that my audience really needs to embody, understand, digest, whatever it is, what is it that they need? And that could be as simple as, like with polyvagal, is that there is a solution. There
Mhm.
is a way to make it better when you're having a panic attack, or whatever it, Carly, whatever your topic is. What's the one thing? And then the key is in the talk is figuring out ways that you can buy yourself time to relax, buy yourself time to check in with your audience and see if they care, or if they're understanding, or if they're still engaged, or if they're not understanding, if they're like completely off there. Well, oh, I lost you, right? That being said, to me, the idea of talking fast, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think if you have immediacy and if you have intention,
Mhm.
talk is get me there. Like if I were to be like, okay, guys, today we're going to talk about how to make $500 million in the next hour. Ready? Here's how to do it. Make $500 million. Well, like bring it, right? Like it's like listening to a course on 1.5 speed or 2 speed. Get me there faster, right? As long as you take moments to breathe and to let them, like let your audience breathe. So think about it like that. The worst thing I think you can do, see, and I'm trying to slow myself down now too. The worst thing I think you can do is tell yourself to slow down. It's like telling someone with a panic attack, and I've had people tell me this while I was having a panic attack. Oh, just calm down. Just breathe.
Super helpful.
Oh my God, you're so right. I forgot. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I forgot to breathe. Like, no, no. Once you're in that state, it's like you can't just reverse it by breathing. I mean, you can literally. I understand that breathing does help, but like, but it's like to just like belittle someone and negate their feelings and go, just breathe, you know? So I don't want to say slow down. I want to say find moments of breathing.
Yeah.
Find moments of checking in. Does that make sense? Like, does that work? Do you get where I'm going with this? Whatever it is that is your way of engaging them and seeing if they're processing, because they might be totally fine with you talking fast. So that addresses the fast piece. Then with the meandering around the point, I think in your head, get like super clear about, again, if you get super clear about what you want this person to understand. Like I have this obsession. This is so random. I'm very close with my co-parent, my ex-wife, and like we got a divorce in 2020. We broke up 2 years before then, but like we've developed this great friendship again, and we're more right as friends and co-parents, and we're like a family. Like not in a weird way, like we're like cousins. Not actually, but okay. And so to me, like as I'm like getting back on the market, I'm like I keep thinking about how am I going to broach that topic, right? Of because most people have like horrible divorces, and then it could be sketchy. It could be like, oh, there's feelings there. There's no feelings there. Like I promise. And so I'm obsessed with that. And so I catch myself in like this loop in my brain thinking about it. How am I going to describe it? How am I going to explain? Well, maybe I should talk about this. Maybe I talk about. And then what I did was I took myself through this exercise recently, and I was like, what is it that you really want this woman, who I haven't met yet, but what do you really want her to understand? And I was like, oh, at the core of it, I really want her to understand that the way my family is right now is very important to me. It doesn't, I mean, I have room for someone new. I'm gonna focus on this new woman. Like I'm gonna commit all this stuff, but I don't want to lose this friendship that I've developed for years, you know? And I was like, oh, well, you're not saying any of that, dude. Like in this debate that I have in my head, I'm like, you're not saying any of it. Just say that. Like, hey, we've created this really cool family. There's no romance, but it's important to me. It's just as important to me as my relationship to my sister and my brother-in-law. Like, look how fast I got, right? I got there so fast.
Hmm.
So take yourself through that similar thing. Allow yourself to cycle for 20 minutes. Like allow yourself to go through and then go stop. Wait, what is it that I'm really wanting the other person to understand? And if you think of your audience as an audience of 1,000, like one person at a time, one person who really needs to hear what you have to say, then you go, what do I want them to understand? I want them to understand that they can make a difference. That I want them to understand that when they're in a bad state, they can turn it around one step at a time. Whatever it is that you're working on,
Hmm.
that's going to ground everything you're saying. So that's my long answer.
But this is helpful too because I struggled slash struggle with the same thing. And I think that's also part of why I wanted to work with a coach on this is because I was like, that to me is like when I see people who are like formally trained or who are good speakers or whatever, I'm like, they do have like a way that they talk about it. They have a story, there's like a flow. And I think that's where like the outline helps. And also exactly what you said, like what do you want them to get out of this? Because when you sit down and you figure that out, that helps. And for me, my ADHD like prevents me from doing that. I can't really see it that way. So that's why I needed somebody else to give me perspective and to tell me like this is kind of where you start. This is what we go into. This is the flow. You can tell some stories here and then this is how we end it.
Well, I want to address that. I love that you're saying this. We keep talking about this idea of formal training, right?
No.
Um, so
I know what you're
my
gonna
what?
say. Go ahead.
Uh, No, what would you say?
No, go ahead. I know what you're gonna say.
Oh, well, so my marketing person, she got me to like she created this like moniker for me of like Broadway-trained performance coach, and I loved it. And I put it on LinkedIn, and people emailed me and like, "That's so smart, that's so great." And I checked in with my friends that are still in showbiz, and they're like, "Yeah, you are Broadway trained." And so what's funny about that is I trained at a Broadway theater. They had an acting program. It's called Circle in the Square. It's a full-on Broadway theater right next door to the Gershwin where Wicked. I went right when Wicked was loading in 2003. And I dropped out after a while because the notion of formal training was so not conducive to my ADD or my personality or my star quality. And what I learned about formal training in that situation is, and the reason I use the Broadway trained thing because it's like it to me that's where it all started. That's where I was like, I'm on a journey to train and coach, but not in what is conventionally known as the formal training, because the formal training I found is a way and I see this with other speech coaches. They're brilliant speech coaches, and I hear this all the time that like someone worked with someone else, and then they come to me and they say, "I this other person created the most beautiful outline ever, and they told me not to say like and and they told me that I should start this way, and I should do this here, and I should do that." And basically, the formal training is to formally train you out of being yourself. It's to do it in a conventional way, a box that it's this is how it should be, this is how it should sound. And I
Mhm.
go, then it becomes aspirational. It's like singing in the wrong key. It's so important when we work together that our formal training is actually allowing you to ADHD it up.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to flow and be and go all over the place. And I'll track with you. I'll follow you and I'll take notes of everything you're saying because it's all gems. You know, even if I ask a question in clients, it might take them 20 minutes to get to the point. Cool. But you as an example, so much goodness has come out of
Yeah.
meandering and just exploring. And why not create a rehearsal space where you can have all the ideas in the world and you can say all the things? I think so many people try to like limit us, and especially with the ADHD, it's a genius, it's a brilliance. Like there's so many possibilities for creativity and creation in general when we allow ourselves to ADHD it up and think outside the box and blah, 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 word vomit and stuff, you know? So the notion of formal training, I think, is conducive for people that I'm just gonna say it. Maybe I'll get yelled at on social media for it, but I think formal training is a great way for people that are looking for a tight solution and who want to play in that realm where they don't expose themselves and they go, well, this is the system. I'm going to adhere to that system, but I don't want to bring too much of myself to it because that's vulnerable. Whereas I think people that really want to connect and share their message on a big stage and scream from the hilltops, like, you guys, there is a solution. We can change the world. We can do all these things. They really want to be motivational. I think they want to be more authentic and genuine
Yeah.
and sincere because like they made these discoveries and they figured out these solutions and they want to share them now. I go, yeah, let's make your flow. Let's make your formal training, which is not to limit or take away, but to enhance and leverage the star quality. I mean, like last thing I'll say is like when we were connected and I looked you up, I was like, oh, I was like, this woman's not gonna hire me. She's set. Like she's like I was like, she's killing it. She's so personable. She's such a star. I watched like your videos. I love your social media presence, like your videos online. Like you're so engaging and you're so colorful and play. I always tell you this. So I was like, oh, this is so fascinating. Like this is a star who has probably been told not enough or too much or whatever. Don't talk this way. Don't do that. So much of our work has been to just open it up and go, what does it look like when you don't apologize? What does it look like when you're just like, and like you start your speech. How do you start your speech?
What's up, motherfuckers?
What's up, motherfuckers? And it's so powerful when you say it. It's like, whoa, it's jarring. She's like, what's up, motherfuckers?
I do it like that. I clap at people, I yell at them. But that's part of the polyvagal, you know? And that, I also think this ties back to the fear for me, is like, this is where it was helpful, was the meandering and the exploring, because it is the being exposed and the being vulnerable that is a part of my fear personally. And I have like a very big thing about like, I'm gonna go up there and people aren't gonna like me, or I'm gonna say it wrong, they're not gonna like how I say it, and like all of those things, and like being exposed. Even in Italy, um, the screen of course was behind me, and there wasn't like it was just a stage. And I was like, there's no podium. I was like, like to hide behind something. And I did for like the first 20 minutes until we got to like the good shit and the shit that I really enjoy talking about. And then I was able to like go into the middle and like move around a little bit more. So like those little things were really important. And it also showed me that like this was something we worked on too. It was like, this shit in the beginning is like boring and I don't care about that. And it shows because I like stutter and I say and I'm hiding behind my computer. And then when we get to like the meat of it, that's when I get really excited. And that's where I was like, this is what needs to shift. That's the stuff that I need to be talking about.
It's like starting a concert with five songs that you're not passionate about. And it's like if you were a singer, right? Like why would you like go to the guts? Like there's so many comedians that say that like they'll do their best material. Like they'll go do a show and then they'll take the best material that normally they save for the ending, and then they put it at the beginning of the next show. And then it's like now they have to build above that. And I think the same thing goes with speaking is like get there fast, like just get to the delivery of the content and then you can play. And to your point, Gabby, like I wish Gabby, I keep saying Gabs.
Gabby's okay.
To your point, like I wish that I could say like just have more fun with it. Like just get out there and have fun. But if you like I got booed off stage once, like fully booed off stage. Um it happened early on when I was performing and I didn't know how to write for myself. I wasn't a good singer at the time. And I got booed off stage by my parents at my sister's rehearsal dinner for her wedding. I was 18 years old and I was trying to sing something and they were like, okay, 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 come on. And my parents were very critical every time I performed, every time I sang, every time I did anything. I talk about it in my comedy show. And so for me, doing anything as a performer was terrifying. Every time I pushed myself to try uh, comedy or speaking or singing at a bar or something, I was terrified because I had so much criticism from the very people that were ostensibly supposed to support me. So I don't take that lightly. Like when clients are like, "I'm so scared of being vulnerable." I'm like, I hear you. Let's work through that. Let's talk about it. Let's open it up. Let's support that. Let's give that space. Let's figure out what it is that's at the core of holding you and trying to keep you safe. We address all of that. Like that's where it's like real coaching, like it's yes, we create content, but in terms of freeing your voice up, we have to address all that.
Yep. And we did. We sold.
One of my favorite things, I love when you say to me, you're like, you're a therapist and you don't know it. You say that to me, and I'm like, I wish, man, I wish.
It was kind of like a lot of therapy. It was definitely a lot of, I've cried in front of Ron like a million times at this point. I cried a lot in our sessions. But we went deep, which is what needed to happen because there was like that fear of vulnerability, but there's also just like fear of being perceived and fear of being seen. And like those wounds needed to be talked to and figured out because that was holding me back, not just with this, but like in a lot of other areas too. So it all
Mm.
blended together nicely.
And we do it with laughter too, right? Like
Yeah.
I say, there at least 5 times a week I'll have clients crying, but it's followed with laughter, not in an uncomfortable way, like not like a inappropriate joke after the laughter. It's like we find the joy in that hurt, and we find the joy in not the trauma, but like we find the joy in the disappointment, or
Yeah.
oh, I wish I had worked on this 10 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. I fall into that, but it's okay. I'm here now. Carla said this was really helpful. Um, and she also said her director of operations nicknamed her Showtime, which I think is really
Oh,
funny. So,
cool.
any last thoughts while we wrap up here?
What was your question before it?
Oh, I did not forget that actually. So this kind of goes in with all of this, but something that you always said to me that has stuck with me that again goes with fear of being perceived and fear of being seen. And if am I going to say the right thing or the wrong thing is what you call like sage on the stage. Can you explain that and what that means, why that's relevant for people to know?
Yeah, so now I'm gonna get super controversial now. Um, I again having parents that were very critical, and I grew up very overweight. Um, I definitely I was always envious. I have this one um I have this one friend that I grew up with, very good looking guy, like always got the women, like and now he's very successful, like he's financial in finances. And he always spoke with such command and authority. And I remember him saying when we were like in junior high or high school, he's like, I don't talk unless I know I'm right or something like that. And I was like, so envious of that because every time I spoke at home, I was wrong.
Mhm.
And I had a bunch of relationships in my 20s and like, yeah, that validated that. You're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. You're wrong, right? And so I was always envious of like mansplainers. And I always joke with my clients, I go, can I mansplain for a second or can I ronsplain? And when I ronsplain, it's always like, what you need to understand is that you're amazing. And I tell them like all positive things. But the notion of sage on the stage to me is like we talk about it in public speaking world is like this idea of like someone getting up there and full on like, okay, y'all don't know, but I'm gonna mansplain. I'm gonna do it with this conviction and authority, and you're gonna believe me no matter what. Okay, this is what it is, and you're not doing it. You're not doing it right. You need to do it right. You're not doing it right. And it's like there's only so much that you can listen to that. And it takes a special kind of person to even listen to that at all.
Yes.
And be like, oh, you're right, you're right. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. I did it wrong. I should change it around, right? So the sage on the stage, someone that just gets up there and barks at you and tells you what to do and how you did it wrong. I don't think that's interesting, and I don't think the majority of listeners and audience members can really receive that.
Mhm.
So what we instead do is we use storytelling. We use like the string of pearls where it's like you set up a conflict at the beginning and you unravel the string of pearls, like you unravel and unfold the ending where by the end of the speech the audience member goes, "Oh, I totally get that and I see how I can do what you're talking about. I see how I can implement those tools, those skills, those or that process, those pillars. I could see how I could do that and apply that to my life and change my world. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so glad I paid the $500 ticket or the $2,000 to go to the conference. Like to me, like my clients speak at high end events, so it's like there's huge pressure, and they're getting paid a lot. And so I that notion of sage on the stage is the void of connection, and it's the void of really building a bond with your audience and really helping them cross a threshold, cross a precipice, or move through a precipice, cross a
Yeah.
threshold. Either way, fucking move through stuff.
That's helpful though, because there is a lot of pressure. And like right before I started with, like right when we started, actually, I was keynoting, and it was like, I think one of the highest paid things that I've ever done for just speaking for 90 minutes virtually, not having to go anywhere. And there is pressure, and I put that pressure on myself. And that's like pulls into all of this where I'm like, I have to be perfect. What does that even mean? I don't know. But I know that I need everybody out there to like me and to pay attention, which also does not happen. And it's fine.
I know, I'm sorry, cognitive dissonance. I'm like, wait, people don't like you? You're like the most likable person on this planet. Are you kidding me? You and Mike, you and your husband, are the most likable people. I just want to say both of you, so likable. I follow him on social media, and I'm just like, God, I like this guy.
He's a good one. He's a good one, and he's also my biggest fan after you.
Yeah. He's probably a little bit before me, let's be real. But
Maybe,
like,
maybe a little
I'm a
bit.
big fan of yours. But like the um sorry, wait, like I want to just like wait, say what you just like spoke about this idea of like once you get that keynote opportunity and you're terrified, I want to throw this out there too. Just like any kind of performance, um, there's there's no way to what's that saying? No way to do it but to do it.
Yeah.
There's no other way to do it but to do it. Yeah, that's something like that, right? No other way to do it but to do it. So I say if you have I just want to put this out there to the audience. Last thing, like I want to throw out there, if you have a speech coming up, practicing at home is great. Practicing in front of a live audience is a game changer. And so like whenever I have anything coming up, like even like I directed an opera in 2018 and I hadn't directed for a while and I'd never even seen an opera. So like I directed an opera here in Boulder and right before I was like, shoot, like I am really rusty. I have to go direct something. So I directed like a little concert or something, a little cabaret show. And I created and directed. And so I just think it's so important that one of the best things you can do if you do have a keynote coming up and you're terrified for it is go find places to speak it for free even. Go workshop it. Like or like we did, get a Zoom call going, set a date for 2, 3 weeks out, and then or like a few weeks before the speech,
Yeah.
presumably, and invite 10 of your friends and ask for feedback. Don't ask for feedback. Like people don't care. Just be like, "Yo, can you guys just meet on this day and let me practice the speech?" And I'll go through the Zoom and everything, or go through the PowerPoint and everything. But getting up and physically doing it in front of an audience, whether it be virtual or in person, is that will get you more prepared than anything.
Hmm.
um that's just the best way to practice and like just to test out. I mean, every comedian does it, every performer does it. You do like I don't know. I remember when Jay Leno did the Tonight Show, he would go do the show and then go do like a stand-up set to try his material for the next day, like in front of a live audience at a theater or a club. So that's my biggest advice.
Which is helpful. And I was like terrified when you were like, oh, we're gonna do this live. And I was like, what? No, we're not.
Like what now? But setting the date got us to like bang it out, and like to get really clear and like and you had to do it. Like it was not just like in theory, right? I'm starting to offer for people in Colorado, like in Denver, I'm starting to offer showcases where it's like for clients that have worked with me before and they like at the time they had a speech coming up, but they wanted to create like we had to because it was a TEDx talk or a Disrupt HR, we had to be very focused and directed in a certain way, but they had all this other stuff they wanted to share. I'm like, let's do a showcase. I think everybody who's listening to this, I'm like, do your own showcase. Like maybe get other friends that want to speak and everyone create 10 minutes and create a Zoom
Yeah.
like right like create a Zoom show and everybody speak for 10 minutes, like
Yeah.
maybe three or four of you, like there's so many opportunities now I think to just get up and talk, that is what ultimately is going to get you ready. But if you obviously want to like refine and work on the content, work on the performance, I'm here for you.
Mhm.
Any friend of Gab's is a friend of mine, come on.
I love that. Where can people find you? Because by the way, Ron loves working with therapists and also with female entrepreneurs. That's like his bread and butter. So tell people where they can find you because I always get your website confused and it's artfulspeaker.com.
Speaking, artful
Speaking.
speaking.
Okay,
Yeah.
artful speaker is eulogies, so don't go there.
Uh-huh.
Because I was
So
trying to send it to somebody and I was like, that's not right.
So it's artful with one L, artfulspeaking.com. So, or you can look me up on LinkedIn, Ron Ben Joseph, first name Ron, last name Ben Joseph. Yes, three first names, but it's one last name. And also the woman thing I should say too. I'm not like, I mean, anyone who's been watching this, I'm not like a smoothie. It's not me being inappropriate. I just over the years, I've been working with primarily like 90% of my clients are female. Um, this has been the case for the last 7 to 8 years. It just makes more sense. It's just I've catered the whole process to women because I've just found that to be the most conducive for me and my style. And so it's like I always have to qualify. It's not inappropriate. It's not like I've never crossed the line or what I mean. So yeah,
Thank you for
it's a safe space.
it is a safe space, but I think that's important to say because that's your niche and
Yeah.
that's who everything is curated for and what we need is different than what, you know, Greg Tech Bro needs. It's a lot different actually. So
Greg Tech Bro, I can tell you, Greg Tech Bro does not need me. Like he does not need that conversation. He needs something completely different. And I've turned down many a Greg Tech Bro. That is true.
love that. We love that.
Yeah, he
So
had his chance.
he did, and we don't need to give him any more chances. He gets plenty. So
But therapist Jeff,
yeah,
I'm here for therapist Jeff, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, for sure. There's a place for that. I can agree
Yep.
with that. So I will put all of your website info down below. If
Cool.
people are watching the replay, put hashtag replay. We'll make sure that we get your questions answered. Reach out to Ron if you want to work through this because it has been absolutely life-changing for me and I can't recommend him enough. Thank you
You're
for
the
being
best, Gabby. Virtual hug.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having me here.
Thank you so, so much. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. You're the best.
Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.